Hey, hello folks, it's Russ Barker, Better Crossbred Barker video series. It is November 14th, the crop is off, yields are pretty good across corn and beans. It's been a great fall. There's some nasty weather coming here in the next few days, so hopefully you'll have maybe a few minutes to actually watch this. First is the last 2 weeks and glorious sunshine, warm temperatures, and everybody had lots of stuff to do outside, and we all, myself included, yours truly, also took advantage of those opportunities. But here, we're going to talk about the growing season, hit some of the highlights I went through, hit our observations, and do a little summary. Of course, coming up is that season that I know you all look forward to. That is the annual migration of seed corn sales reps and dealers coming around offering you early pay, early order discounts. With Pioneer's case, we're also in that game, as you all are aware, and our early payment, the 15% for cash, 11% for deferred pay, is coming up on December 11th. So we've got basically 4 weeks to work towards that goal, and yeah, I know you're all looking forward to seeing us. So Brian and I will be around, and we'll be talking to you, certainly over the phone, if not face to face. I've got a list here, and just so I didn't forget everything, I've kind of written it down here to keep track. But 6.5 months ago, it was the 1st of May, and I was sitting out in this cornfield. I had my toque, my winter coat, my hoodie on, and as you recall back, the polar vortex had swept through about on May 3rd, May 4th. The big question of the period was, should you be planting corn? Should we be doing? What do we want to be doing? Soils generally were dry. There was some Monday morning quarterbacking after the fact that maybe they weren't as dry as what we thought, but there was certainly on the soil surface, it was dry. I was pretty much advocating drive on, get going, don't get too concerned about it. And looking back on hindsight, that planting in that very cold soil conditions, very cold surface temperatures, it did inhibit population somewhat. There's no question across the board. We probably dropped 10% at least, maybe 15% population-wise. Which brings me to an important point going forward. Next spring, in 2021, we have a drone that will be able to actually quickly, and that's the important part, quickly fly a field, get an average plant stand count, and know on a more accurate basis of stand losses that may or may not occur in 2021. So that's kind of an exciting thing I want to talk about going forward before next spring. After it got cold, we all know, then it got dry. The water tap turned off, and through June and July, from a big chunk in the area, certainly if you got over to Granton, Elgin Field, Prospect Hill, North of St. Mary's, there was a measurable drop of moisture from about the middle of May through to very early in August. Other areas, like through where I'm standing here closer to Kirkton, we picked up rainfall. In fact, there was a nasty windstorm, as everybody recalls, there on June 11th. But there was generally moisture through this side. So what you had some haves and you have some have-nots. The haves really didn't have to worry about drought stress. They just had to keep cutting their lawn because the grass just continued to keep growing through that whole period. The have-nots were in a different boat. It got quite serious. It looked pretty tough. Drought stress was there. It was real. Plants rolling up and down, a lot of variability across fields, and it did indeed look like it was going to be a significant issue. And in some fields it was, there's no question. Other fields where either the combination of fertility and soil health, it still was amazing in those drought zones. The level of yield that we were able to experience and pull off those fields. There was some 190 bushel, 200 bushel corn in areas that didn't get appreciable moisture through that whole period. What's the reason? Soil tilth, soil health, good fertility. And a little bit of soil type. If you're on a little bit of a loamier texture, you were able to get along. The heavy clays that have been maybe abused a little bit, lacking in fertility, or just that Huron clay as you get into around between Rannoch and Prospect Hill, and some of those flat silty clays that are north of St. Mary's, just couldn't handle it, and there was yields dropped off 40-50 bushel in a number of those farms with respect to corn yields. Again, the haves versus the have-nots. Mother Nature sometimes is cruel. Speaking of cruel, on September 18th, generally a frost through the whole area. Took the top parts of plants, cleaned them off, dead top 2-3 feet. Completely decimated that leaf area, that photosynthetic factory on the top part of the plant. We were pretty sure at the time that it hadn't killed the plant, and indeed that was the case. However, I firmly believe, and that's based on my experience in where we didn't have drought stress, that frost kind of capped yields a little bit. We were on track to some very high corn yields until that occurred. And it's my own personal belief, it's just based on observation, nothing more, but based on observations, that I think that clipped us a little bit. Maybe took 5, 10, 15 bushel off the top end just because we've lost that upper part of the factory. The good news, the plant still functioned, and it was still alive, and it continued to progress. And at the end of the day, we had good grain quality for the most part. Certainly there was no disease, test weight, low grade 2s, and there were some higher grade 3s at the elevators for the most part said, hey, we got lots of good corn, so don't worry about it. So quality was exceptional. The other effect of that frost, it seemed like, and certainly in this local area, that dry down was affected somewhat. There was a fair degree of angst locally in the latter part of October, when corn moisture was still hanging in that 28, 30, 31%. It didn't seem like it was drying. And my own personal thoughts on it at that time is, well, hey, we're late October. Let's not get too shook up about this. Well, Mother Nature turned around and smiled on us in the first 2 weeks of November. As everybody knows, glorious, sunny, warm weather. That corn moisture dropped like a rock, and during the last 10 days of harvest, it was a pleasure. I said to some guys, it's kind of like we're in Iowa. We're sunshine and we're in t-shirts. We're harvesting corn that's 22%. It isn't any wonder people no mud. It isn't any wonder folks in the U.S. do enjoy harvesting corn when it's lovely sunny weather. It's really kind of a pleasurable experience. Fungicide. We had an observation on fungicides. Certainly with Brian on the sprayer, and you don't spray every corner of every field, you could see a huge difference in plant health due to fungicide. We did one side by side where we got 10 bushels of corn on P0075, fungicide, no fungicide. Now it was a little wetter, it was 2 points wetter, which is what you'd expect. But again, even with that stop in that upper part of the plant, as I mentioned in September, we still got a pretty good response to fungicide. And so I'm still in the fungicide camp, folks. We're still going to advocate using it, and that hasn't changed. Hybrid performance, of course, we got to talk a little bit about hybrid performance. And plots, you can now on the web, you can go in and look at all companies' plots. They've all got them on their websites or on their apps. On the web, you can go to pioneer.com and you can click on and look at yield data performance, and you can see the locations of all the plots, and other companies have the same thing as well. So it's pretty easy now with technology to go in and look across a number of plots and kind of compare, if you're into that kind of thing, and compare how certain hybrids did. I think when you go across the whole works of them, you're going to say, well, it's kind of a dog's breakfast. There's a number of good hybrids out there across companies. Is there one dominant hybrid? No, probably not. There certainly is some very strong, consistent hybrids that are on the marketplace. In terms of one being wildly better than the other, you just tend not to see that very much. The two hybrids that we have going forward that we feel really, really confident about, now there's a third one, but the two that we really feel confident about in terms of grain corn, P0075 for you folks that don't mind and work with full season corn. P0075 is going to be a good additional lineup. Strong agronomics, outstanding agronomics, stay green, plant health, combination with some pretty good top end yields. in that maturity going forward, it's a cracker. If you want grain quality, well, 9946, extremely strong test weight, terrific jib tolerance. We never want to forget jib tolerance in this area. It comes around on a regular basis and causes us a large degree of grief through the lee of Lake Huron here in the areas that we farm locally. The other really exciting thing, something that we haven't had too much, it's called 9535. It's a 2850 heat unit hybrid. For you fellas that were really concerned about moistures the end of October, if you've got drying systems that it takes a while to grind through the crop just because, you got a lot of bushels, you're bringing a lot of material to that dryer, and you need to start a little sooner. Your dryer doesn't handle 30% corn real well. 9535, terrific agronomics, pretty good grain quality, yield, you'll see it in some strip plots. Hanging in there with 2900 unit hybrids. That's going to be a good hybrid for us going forward. So we're going to be talking about 9535 and putting it across a number of acres and just seeing the consistency of it going forward. I don't think there's any question. The consistency of 9535 and that maturity is going to be something that we're all going to enjoy using. Again, I'm going to finish. That's it for corn. One thing real quick. Corn rootworm resistance. It's here. It's real. It's something that is not a surprise to seed companies, but it has been chattered about, and it is in the province. Of course, rootworm resistance to most of the genetic stacks. And going forward, there's some solutions. It's not the end of the world. We can do some rotational things. We can use high-rate neonic insecticides as seed treatments that will help us work through this thing. But the reason I brought it up, it's kind of a complicated resistance mechanism. It's difficult maybe to get your head around. It's open to a lot of misinterpretation, misunderstanding of how it actually works and what and the features in the genetic resistance of corn hybrids that has maybe broken down a little bit and all that. But it's just something that livestock producers growing continuous corn will have to be aware of going forward, and it'll be a discussion point to keep the risk of that as low as possible. So that's it. It's a little longer than what I hoped, but December 11th, early pay discount, Pioneer, and it's harvest is done. We should have some time to talk this through. Have a great day and stay safe. The virus is still around. Please, social distance, keep the mask. Let's just be smart and keep this thing to a bare minimum so the businesses stay open, schools stay open, and we continue to at least somewhat enjoy life. Thank you. We'll be in touch soon. Take care.